Hi there, my name's MetaVT. Welcome to my bar. I was thinking since Spooky Month, we could read some S.C.P files. Let's get started. Alright, our first tale is a featured tale on the S.C.P website called Plastic Graveyard. Have you ever had a virtual pet, some sort of fake little creature that you're solely responsible for? There was a bit of craze in my town, to the point that our school district had to ban them. It was such a big problem that the kids were skipping school to feed their Tamagotchis, me included a few times, finding loopholes in the library computers so they could log into Neopets, smuggling their Digimon into their pencil pouches. Against a crowd of crafty teenagers, keeping them away was an insurmountable task. The teachers knew it would be tough, though. The school already had a pretty strong historical precedent for this kind of thing. Even back in 1997, when the Tamagotchis first came to the United States, they were immediately popular, but there's one thing that's different about these older models. Compared to the toys of the current day, they're freaking brutal. A few hours without feeding and they let out a fit of high-pitched shrieks and screams before dropping dead. Too many snacks? Dead. Low morale? Dead. And when your teacher confiscates your beloved pet for the rest of the class period, that can mean you never see them again. I'm sure the kids knew they could reset the device and get another pet, but at some point it was all too much for a few of them. They came together to dig holes in the fields, scraping up the dirt with wood chips and plastic spoons, carefully crafting a place to lay their lifeless device to rest. But eventually the graveyard grew too big and it drew the teacher's ire. The courses were exhumed by the principal himself. He dug into the sacred ground with a rusty shovel, while the onlooking children were held back by some other staff. It sent the school into disarray. Kids were screaming, parents were concerned, and they finally realized the problem was too big to simply scold away. That was when the Jeffersons stepped in, a big, rich family that owned an unused tomb in the local cemetery down the street from the school. They offered a section of it to the community, to every kid with a dead virtual pet, giving each one a little drawer to act as a coffin. Some kids decorated them with stickers or wrapped them in cloth. Sometimes they even visited to leave flowers. At last, all the students slept soundly, knowing their Tamagotchis were at rest. Almost half a decade later, that place is jam-packed with plastic with ever-cycling LCD screens, only visible under the dim light of the sun creeping down the tomb stairway. When I was 15, most kids in my school had already buried their virtual pets and the tomb was rarely visited. But I went there, and I didn't come back for 14 months. During this time, my parents didn't report my absence. I'm not even sure if they noticed I was gone. The school was unfazed. The few friends I had forgot about me. The first day I came back, I creeped towards my dad, dirty and disheveled. He nodded at me, sniffed, and then chuckled with a slight scowl on his face. I know boys your age don't really get personal hygiene. When it gets this bad, you go take a freaking shower. So go, now. So I went to the bathroom, filled up the tub, and tried to drown myself. I was already missing her. When I walked down that damp, dark stairway, I didn't really imagine ever wanting to come back up. I remember the red pocket knife in my backpack, a detail I was almost fixated on. I wasn't going to do anything, I really wasn't, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. With each step I took, I felt like a gravity was pushed down on me stronger and stronger, beckoning my descent. Eventually, I reached into my backpack and pulled out the knife, holding it in my hand. I flicked it open, pressing the side of the blade against my wrist, feeling the cold metal on my skin. In a moment of lucidity, I pulled it away and mustered the strength to throw it down the stairwell, watching it clink and clank into the darkness. Then everything looked different, as if the entire world had begun to glow. The stairway wasn't as dim, almost like I had night vision for a moment. I stared at the emerald moss creeping up the walls, and I swear it was looking back at me. I started to run, tripping over myself as I gasped for air, every step an impact, sending a jolt through my entire body until I reached the bottom. With tear-soaked eyes, I reached for a familiar drawer, decorated with shiny rainbow stickers and patterned origami paper. But when I yanked it open, it was empty. And for a moment, everything flickered. Then I heard her guttural, droning voice. She didn't even have one when I first met her, but I could tell it was hers. I've really missed you, you know. I froze, barely feeling my legs enough to turn to see her. She looked so different than I imagined. Her tan, textureless body towered over me, but she looked so thin. The frills of her tomato red head drifting from side to side and the slight draft running through her tomb. Her black squiggly line of a mouth on her pale white face looked happy, I think. Tosa? Her whole body tilted to the side. Yeah? I lunged at her, tackled into her slender body with a hug. I've really missed you too. She felt like a marshmallow warm in my arms, like she could melt at any moment, but she didn't. She only grew softer. Eventually, she laid a hand on my shoulder, slowly pushing me away before looking into my eyes. While I stared back at her, they looked like button candy, the cheap kind you have to peel off sheets of paper. Do you want to eat them, she asked. My eyes, I mean? I chuckled a bit, wiping my eyes with the sleeve of my hoodie. No, of course not. Tosa's wiggly mouth straightened out for a moment. You're my guest. It's okay if you want to. No, you were hungry though, I can tell. She started lumbering behind my back, resting a hand on my shoulder to keep me facing forward. Then she waved a hand over my eyes, and I was suddenly in a kitchen. There was a set of eyes and a mouth on the matte gray fridge. It was chewing on something constantly, like gum, but it didn't seem to make any noise. Before I could sputter anything out, she guided me to a table and firmly pushed down on my shoulder, sitting me down in a chair. Then she set up a plate in front of me, some kind of sausage and toast. I never really liked breakfast foods, but I cleaned my plate in an instant. Toast seemed happy about that. You're tired, aren't you? I think so, but I don't. She waved a hand in front of my eyes again, and I was suddenly tucked neatly into a massive bed. The sheets felt like I would always imagine clouds would feel. Good night, Tosa said, flicking the light switch off. I stared up at the light in the ceiling and saw it blink, slowly fading into darkness, before closing its eyes. Eventually, I did too. The next morning, Tosa sat me at the table with the same meal she fed me before. I was happy to eat, but I couldn't stop stealing glances at her at the other side, just staring at her, watching me. This is really good, but Can I make something for you? Her eyes went white from a maybe. Do you remember my favorite? I froze. It's what you're eating right now. Oh. She shook her entire body, letting her red frills slap together on top of her head. It's okay. It's been a while, hasn't it? I wanted to say it had almost been 5 years. but I couldn't remember for sure, so I just nodded instead and went for another bite. When I cleaned my plate, the face on it winked at me. After that, things just repeated. Eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep. Sometimes we play a card game or fiddle with some random toy together. I liked the spinning top. It would always get so dizzy and disoriented. You could see it in his eyes. They would turn to little spirals, and we'd always laugh at it. Otherwise, it was a regulated schedule, almost like school, but so much more relaxing. One day, Tosa woke me up and brought me to the table and set a wrapped present in front of me. Go ahead, open it. I tore the box open to find a big pink bow, which she immediately grabbed from my hands and clipped into my hair. It's cute on you, she said, holding a mirror in front of me. I could only agree with her. She tucked the mirror away. I brushed my hair back. But it'd be cute on you too, Tosa, I blurted out. She paused, then turned to me. Her eyes completely black. I don't think most Tosokachis would agree with you. But, her mouth straightened out. But I think I do. The weeks went by in a flash. After a while, Tosa had gifted me an entire cabinet of accessories, which she occasionally swapped out, paying attention to which of the ones I liked the most. At some point, she adjusted a little opera mask on my face, and as she was focused on my eyes, I grabbed the bow and put it up in her frills. See, Tosa? It looks nice on you too. Her mouth squiggled even more, looping around itself like a spiral. Right? That's not how this works. What? I stuttered out. You wear it. Her voice was so suddenly dry and raspy as she reached for the bow, tearing it out of her red frills, ripping one out of her head completely. Something gray dribbled from the spot where it was. I'm not like you. I don't know why you think I am. I don't know why you treat me like this. Why you ever did. I took a step back. Tosa, stop, please. I don't know why I can't change. She waved her hand in front of my eyes, just like she had been doing for weeks, whisking me away to a new place, but this time, everything went dim. I was at the entrance of the tomb, which was padlocked shut. It usually was. I couldn't remember how I'd gotten in before. I don't remember the walk home, but when I got there, my dad barely acknowledged me. Told me I was just like the usual crap-smelling teenage boy. You know the story. Before I could think about it, what I was doing, I locked myself in the bathroom, filled the tub with ice-cold water, submerged myself. Taking a deep breath of water, feeling my lungs fill up, I pushed against my own instincts, forced myself to stay under. After what felt like hours, things began to fade. And then I saw the frills, the pale orange pulling me upward, slipping a pill in my mouth, and suddenly I felt okay. I heaved for a moment, trying to cough up any water in my throat, but it was all gone. I put my hands up to my face. My tongue felt prickly but sweet, like I'd just eaten some popping candy. Eventually, I climbed out from the tub, and I looked at myself in the mirror, my disheveled, ugly self. For a moment, I thought about trying again, but then I froze, raising my hands to my face. I waved them in front of my eyes, and when I looked back in the mirror, there was a bow in my hair. That was a pretty neat story. I mean, I liked it. It was interesting, at least. It's kind of confusing, not gonna lie. I was a little confused. It was pretty good. Here we have SCP-8594. It's a level 4 secret. Containment class, uncontained. Special containment procedures. SCP-8594 is uncontainable. Individuals affected by SCP-8594 are difficult to locate. If an affected subject is located, standard amnesticization procedures are to follow on them and any living relatives. Description: SCP-8594 is a parasitic anomaly manifesting as the persistent belief that a subject's loved ones will immediately perish. Subjects affected by SCP-8594 are designated as SCP-8594-1. The vectors facilitating the manifestation of SCP-8594 are unknown, as the general fear of losing a loved one does not serve as a trigger for SCP-8594. Despite this, the common characteristics of SCP-8594-1 instances have experienced the death of a loved one under the age of 15, are diagnosed with anxiety disorder. Major depressive disorders, also common, have a familial history of a genetically transmitted illness. Subjects are often afflicted by this illness. Subjects live greater than 200 kilometers from SCP-8594-2. SCP-8594-2 are persons afflicted by SCP-8594-induced illness. SCP-8594-2 instances can be any age, and symptoms appear within 1 to 2 months, subject being infected. A cure for the SCP-8594-induced illnesses have yet to be discovered. Below are the stages of SCP-8594-afflicted illnesses on SCP-8594-2. Stage 1. SCP-8594-2 will be fatigued, often leading to them sleeping for 10 or more hours. SCP-8594-1 will remain indoors in waking hours, citing joint and limb pain after extended bouts of moving. SCP-8594-2 will be unable to keep large meals down, often claiming pain in the abdominal region caused by constipation. Stage 3. Urged by the SCP-8594-1 subject, SCP-8594-2 will go to a medical facility for a litany of tests. These tests find nothing abnormal with them. In 0.056% of cases, SCP-8594-1 will not pressure SCP-8594-2 to seek medical care. In these cases, SCP-8594-2 will return to full health within 2 weeks, and SCP-8594 stops affecting SCP-8594-1. Stage 4. SCP-8594-2 will be bedridden and unable to move without pain. Small amounts of liquid will be only substance SCP-8594-2 can keep down without expulsion. Stage 5. SCP-8594-2 will become bloated due to fluid buildup. Extremities and limbs will be hard to the touch. The skin and sclera will take on a yellow coloration as major organs begin to fail. SCP-8594-2 will often be placed in a medical facility during this stage. The success of medical intervention varies, often based on the presence of 8594-1. Absentee instances of SCP-8594-1 have caused the onset of the final 2 stages to be significantly prolonged. Stage 6. Subject will go into temporary coma lasting no longer than 7 days. Minor communication will be possible, with SCP-8594-2 smiling, nodding, or frowning in response to verbal information. Substances will need to be delivered intravenously. Blindness in one of both eyes is common, as in the formation of necrosis on the legs. Medical professionals will still have no concrete diagnosis of SCP-8594-2's affliction. Stage 7. SCP-8594-2 will be unable to communicate. They will often remain asleep past small moments of lucidity where they will weakly vocalize pain. Necrosis will continue up the legs towards the lower torso. Full blindness will occur along with hearing loss and further immobility. All organs will fail, save for the brain, which remains unaffected throughout the illness. Pustules of fluid in the limbs and extremities will expand and burst over time. Analgesics will fail to function. Stage 8. SCP-8594-2's heart will stop beating. Despite this, brain scans will show activity as if it's unhindered. SCP-8594-2 will remain alive. SCP-8594-2 will not pass until SCP-8594-1 says their goodbyes. Footnotes. Grandmother or grandfather are the most common instances of pain relief medication. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like me to read or voice over another story or anything, just let me know in the comments down below and I'll look into it. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.